Hi, my name is Circe Sturm, and I'm a cultural anthropologist. And I've been working in American Indian communities since 1993, so about 23 years now. And most of my work has been concerned with questions of tribal belonging, how we understand who is American Indian and who isn't, and who gets to decide these questions. And when we ask those questions about who is Indian and who isn't, we automatically start thinking about blood belonging, whether they're culturally Indian, whether they have tribal citizenship, whether they have political recognition in that sense. My research topic for the Humanities Research Award focused on a little-known American Indian community that's part of a very well-known American Indian community, and that's the Cherokee Freedmen. The Cherokee Freedmen are the Black Indian descendants of Cherokee slave owners and their African-American slaves. So yes, the Cherokee Nation, like other tribes in the southeastern United States, adopted chattel slavery. So what happened was during Reconstruction, there was an 1866 treaty that was signed with the Cherokee Nation and the U.S. government that granted their former slaves, the Cherokee Freedmen, full tribal citizenship. But since that period of time, the Cherokee Freedmen have been fighting for their full rights to tribal citizenship. So they've never gotten the same kind of political enfranchisement that other citizens of the Cherokee Nation have had. So they have been struggling in court all this time. Sometimes it's been in tribal court, sometimes it's been in local U.S. federal courts. Right now, they currently have a case that's before the U.S. Supreme Court. So they have basically sought remedy over 165 years in all these different places and have now arrived at the Supreme Court where a decision is pending. What's wonderful about long-term research like this is that we get the long array of history behind us, but also in my case, having the Humanities Research Award, I've been able to have 5 years of funding that allow me to go back and forth to Oklahoma, to go where events are happening and follow this case very closely, to do ethnographic research with a kind of longer array than what you would normally have with a grant. What's important about this work is that it showcases the tensions between different kinds of rights claims. The civil rights on the one hand and tribal sovereignty on the other hand. Civil rights are largely understood to be individual rights that apply to everyone equally and are about full enfranchisement in the U.S. nation state. Tribal sovereignty is seen more as a collective right of a people, of a tribe, and it's about autonomy from the nation state. One of these is also seen, tribal sovereignty, as mostly tied to a political status, whereas civil rights are attached primarily to a racial status and as seen as a racial remedy. In this case of the Cherokee Freedmen, we see these tensions over these understandings of rights really playing out in the case of the Freedmen because they need to have both at play. And what they're doing is fighting for their civil rights, but in doing so, they're undermining inadvertently their right to sovereignty, the very thing that they're trying to access. And so we are waiting with bated breath to see how this case is decided because it will affect the standing of tribal sovereignty for all American Indian nations. What's been interesting about my research is that because tribal sovereignty is typically understood as something that has nothing to do with race, it's about political status, it's been very obvious in this case that race affects who is understood as having rights to sovereignty and how the courts weigh in on this decision. So I've been able to closely follow the deeper racial politics behind this contemporary struggle.